As it has for more than 2,000 years, Ephesus stands on its plain and among its hills. When the Ionians formed a confederacy of 12 cities, Ephesus, already old, became a member of that confederacy. Of all the cities of the confederacy, Ephesus was the greatest, a place of fine streets and great buildings. By the middle of the 6th century BC, Ephesus was obliged to recognize the Lydian king Croesus as its ruler. This rule lasted until the coming of the Persians. In 334 BC, Alexander the Great liberated the cities of Asia Minor from the Persian yoke. Still later, the reign of Augustus was to bring a long period of prosperity and peace in which the Ephesians would build a splendid theater, an odeon, gymnasia, a library, as well as other buildings natural to a thriving city. An earthquake at last destroyed the city in 17 AD. Tiberius, and later Hadrian, helped to restore Ephesus to a state of greatness. The name of Ephesus will always be associated with the beginnings of Christianity. St. Paul preached here a number of times and stayed here, in fact, from 55 to 58 AD. The Virgin Mary settled near Ephesus and spent her last days here. The Goths came and destroyed the city, and its importance faded. In Byzantine times, it was a bishopric. In 1426, the Ottoman Turks came to Ephesus, and the Emperor Murat II placed Ephesus under his rule. The Gymnasium of Vedius, built in the 2nd century AD. The gymnasium could boast a great central hall adorned with statues. The great street of marble. The grand boulevard of the city, it led from the Croesus Gate on the north to the Magnesia Gate on the south. Splendid with monuments, fountains, and marble benches, the practical Ephesians also furnished the marble street with a drainage system. The great theater that was built in the reign of Claudius, it was completed only in Trajan's time. It contains 66 rows of seats. More than 25,000 eager playgoers could come here in Ephesus' days of greatness. The theater itself rose for 3 floors to a height of more than 60 feet. The Library of Celsius was built in the 2nd century AD. In a central niche was a statue of the goddess Athena, the funerary chamber and the sarcophagus of the governor. The Agora of Ephesus, built by the Emperor Augustus in 30 BC. The Temple of Serapis, built in the 2nd century AD. The great portico was 95 feet wide and decorated with 8 gigantic columns. The base of the columns. The columns were of 1 piece of marble and 45 feet high. The capitals were of the Corinthian style. The relief of the temple is one of the finest ever discovered. The Temple of Hadrian, one of the loveliest monuments of Ephesus, is the relief depicting the founding of the city. Here is the Fountain of Trianus, a newly discovered monument found during the most recent excavations. The Odeon. The Odeon was built in the 2nd century AD by a rich citizen of Ephesus, Flavia Papiana, 25 rows of seats can hold 1,500 spectators. The Cave of the Seven Sleepers. 7 young men are said to have slept here for 200 years, until the Christianity in which they believed became the official religion. At their death, they were buried in the grotto where they had slept. The Basilica of St. John. It was built in the reign of the Emperor Justinian in the 6th century. There is a monumental portico with fine reliefs at the basilica. The tomb of St. John is between 2 rows of columns. The basilica was 360 feet long and 130 feet wide. It was believed by many that a dust coming from the tomb could cure any illness. The Mosque of Isabe. The mosque was built in 1375 by Isabe. It is one of the most beautiful of all Seljuk monuments. The carved frames of the windows. The interior court is bordered by an imposing gallery. The room of the mihrab has 2 domes resting on 4 great gray and pink columns. Each column is about 30 feet high. A road 5 miles long leads to the house of the Virgin Mary. The Virgin Mary settled here after the death of Jesus, arriving here in the care of St. John. Since 1962, this holy place has been in the care of an international commission that is American, Italian, Dutch, French, and German. The French Father Superior relates the story of this chapel. According to tradition, the Virgin Mary spent the last years of her life here at Ephesus. This chapel, in the Byzantine style, was constructed on the foundation of a little 1st century house. In 1891, an expedition was carried out, and the chapel was restored with respect for its Byzantine style. Probably some materials were taken from the Basilica of St. John at Ephesus. In the middle of the chapel, under these 2 big marble plaques, the archaeologists found the entrance of the first house. And this statue, which is a reproduction of the miraculous medal, was put here in 1892. On the left, these crutches and canes were left behind by persons who experienced miraculous cures. On the right is the room said to be the sleeping room of the Virgin Mary. In the foreground, beneath this marble plaque, is a miraculous spring, which has been channeled to different fountains that you see now. The Virgin Mary enjoys the respect of devout millions throughout the world. It is wonderful, although not at all unusual, to see Christians and Muslims together come here out of respect for the Mother of Christ. Everyone following the ways of his own faith comes to the home of the Virgin Mary. In 1952 alone, there were 200,000 people, both Christians and Muslims, who visited the Virgin Mary's home. Now, Dr. Karl Schwing of Basel expresses his opinion concerning the chapel of the Virgin Mary. The world agrees that the Virgin Mary, Miriam Ana, spent her last years in this house. After the crucifixion, she came here, according to tradition, and here she remained. Since the Church accepts the validity of the tradition, encouragement has been given to the desire to visit the house not only by Christians, but Muslims and members of other faiths as well. All come with profound respect for the Virgin Mary. In conclusion, it must be said that it is generally accepted that the house of the Virgin Mary is authentic. These wonders of a living past await the visitor to the friendly modern nation that is Turkey.